Meet the Lee family. As a couple in a commendable dual-income household, they have big plans for the future. They also have a young child. Because of their dream for their daughter to have a good education, they bought a second property, a luxurious condo near a popular primary school. They even planned to rent out their HDB flat for extra income so that Mr. Lee can take a break from the stressful work life in the education industry. But one afternoon, Mr. Lee received a call from his wife's colleague. He was told that Mrs. Lee had collapsed at work. Hi everyone, I'm Stacy. In my line of work, I'm presented with many challenging cases. While many will have a simple enough solution, there are a handful which can be quite difficult to fix. These are what I call the too late cases. Let me continue the story of the Lees. So after her collapse at work, Mrs. Lee was sent to the hospital. Immediately, Mr. Lee rushed to the hospital after receiving the call. For an hour that seemed like an eternity, he waited for news of his wife, who was in the operating theatre. When the nurse finally came out of the OT, he was informed that his wife had suffered a serious stroke and she's currently being operated on. When the operation was finally over, Mr. Lee was led into the ICU. There, the doctor explained to him that Mrs. Lee could lose some motor functions and mental capacity. He was told to be ready. Expectedly, Mr. Lee broke down. The next day, Mrs. Lee opened her eyes. Mr. Lee was by her bedside the whole night, and so was their daughter. But when they tried to converse with her, she did not respond. Eventually, the doctor determined that the stroke had taken away her right arm and her mobility. And what's worse, her mental capacity was severely constrained. Days passed, then a week. Being bedridden with not being able to make decisions, the husband now had to juggle taking care of the daughter, drastic financial changes, and ensuring that the care was provided for his wife in the longer term. But after 2 weeks, understandably, the whole ordeal took a very heavy toll on him. When it's time to settle her caretaking, the court asked him to prove his own financial stability and the ability to take care of his wife without her insurance payouts. This was part of the process of deputyship rights to be granted by the court. With him needing to take care of his wife, his young daughter, his work, and now the court's demands. All these took a severe toll on him mentally. It's a tragic story. I cannot imagine what Mr. Lee must be going through. They had a wonderful life, and all of a sudden, because of just a clot in the brain, their whole life fell apart. A mutual friend asked me if I could do anything for Mr. Lee. To be honest, there's very little anyone can do to help him, apart from doing up a financial report to illustrate Mr. Lee's financial soundness, other than providing a listening ear. Mr. Lee did get his deputyship after 6 months. This court ruling could have been a lot more straightforward. Struggles like these could have been reduced with the right estate planning in place. Really, hindsight is always 20/20. If the Lee family would just work with an estate planner to put in place a plan to weather unforeseen storm like this one, things could potentially pan out a lot less stressful for him. Emotional burden could be significantly reduced. It's been nearly a year since Mrs. Lee's stroke. She regained some mobility and able to somewhat respond. Mr. Lee has also settled into his new way of life, and the insurance payout was set aside for her caretaking. When I asked Mr. Lee what he felt about his whole ordeal, he gave this advice: don't wait until it's too late. Talk to an advisor today and start planning for your family's future. You never know when the unforeseen could happen. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with him. Don't wait until it's too late.